Only the Bulls, only the Bulls, only the one and only Chicago Bulls.
Doom ba doom doom ba doom 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 ba doom 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 ba doom ba boom ba doom 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 ba.
Who can set the court
Welcome back to Running with Bulls podcast. Adam and Josh running the audio pick and roll, video pick and roll. If you're not watching on YouTube, go on FooTube. That's the channel, FOUX Tube. Anyway, enough on that. Joshy boy, it's a beautiful afternoon here, Wednesday, July 2nd. Free agency check-in, Running with the Bulls podcast. How are you?
I'm good. A lot of stuff happened. A couple of surprises, but I wouldn't say anything too crazy. I would say we had something crazy happen yesterday, but it wasn't like,
the Damian Lillard thing.
But I think we can agree this is probably. Can we say this is kind of the lamest free agency I've ever seen?
I will say it's been a little underwhelming so far. I think
the best player that signs is Miles Turner. The aprons kind of killed free agency.
It's definitely a new ball game, and I'm very interested to hear what you have to say about the Bulls. You kind of teased that out in our text exchange earlier today, so I'm really interested to hear your take without giving any spoilers. But it sounded like you don't hate what they're doing. Don't give it all away now, but excited to hear more on that. We're talking about Bulls at the end of the show, so make sure you stick around. We're going to start with kind of a free agency update. There's a certain team in the West. I'm sure the people listening can take an easy guess as to who's kind of worked their way into the top three in my book. And then the Knicks have hired a very similar coach to Tom Thibodeau in Mike Brown. So, wow, we got an episode on our hands, a little free agency update.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to discuss. There's a lot going on, and, kind of crazy what happened. So there's a couple of teams now that have really put themselves into the mix. Definitely.
Let's start with the Nuggets. I mean, that's the team I feel like there's absolutely one free agency so far. Dare I say, dominated free agency. You trade Dario Saric, who I'm sorry wasn't doing much anyway. And so you trade him for Jonas Valanciunas, and all of a sudden the Nuggets, who have kind of been like mixing and matching their backup centers for a long time. I feel like that once they lost Mason Plumlee, they've kind of like been just running guys out there. Like DeAndre Jordan had a few good games, really good game against the Bulls, for example, but he's retired now. But really love Valanciunas for Denver. Bruce Brown, who was such an important part of their championship run, comes back. And then, they just keep adding more pieces. Those are two big ones that stand out at me, but, that's not all they've done either.
Still need a point guard. They still need a backup point guard. And I don't know who it's going to be at this point. If they'd been able to keep Russ, oh my goodness.
Well, what I'm seeing is the three names I saw on a report was Russell Westbrook, Spencer Dinwiddie, who just minutes ago of the time of this recording went to Charlotte, and Malcolm Brogdon. I think
Brogdon, I'd rather have Malcolm than Russ, just because Malcolm is Russ played really well in the playoffs when he had to, when the time called for it.
Sure.
He could be, he made a couple mistakes, but he was really good in the playoffs. And I'm just wanting to look up his stats. I will say this: he struggled in the Thunder series. He only shot 35%. So you got to be better than that. But he made some plays when they needed him. When he was hitting his corner threes, it really helped. But I think Malcolm Brogdon is a way better knockdown shooter. And I think that's what they need. They need a guy who can shoot the basketball. And Malcolm Brogdon is a reliable knockdown shooter. Although last year, to be fair, was the worst year of his career shooting the basketball. So
And he was
hopefully,
coming back from an injury. He was not good last year.
no, but I think he's been struggling the last 2 years. He's only played 63 games total the last 2 years,
Right.
so hopefully he can improve on that. But former sixth man of the year, former rookie of the year, he knows how to play his game, and he knows how to play the way he needs to play in order to be successful on the basketball court. So I can definitely see Malcolm Brogdon being a good pickup for Denver. I definitely could see that. It'd be a really interesting pickup to me.
Well, here's why I really like the idea of them targeting Brogdon. I think Chris Paul is another guy they should look at there. But with Brogdon, the reason I think he's got to be the 1A choice for Denver is, well, let's get the elephant out of the room, the injury concerns, right? Well, when you're bringing a guy in to be a backup point guard, you can kind of lighten that workload, and that could help that guy, maybe stay a little healthier, but you also don't need him to be Jamal Murray. You already have your Jamal Murray. But Brogdon, 6'5", 6'6", can play either guard position in a pinch. Wing can be wing if they need him to technically play a little small forward, but we're kind of in that positionless era. But to have a guy who career, even though last year he shot just under 29% from three, career 39% shooter from three. His best ever was when 2018-19, he shot 43% from three. Actually, excuse me, 2023, the year with the Celtics. Of course, it's with the Celtics. He shot 44% from three, and played 67 games. He didn't start a single game that year, but just kind of goes to show that's the year. As you mentioned, the sixth man honors, that could be crucial if you can bring in a guy who's going to be a combo guard and just continues to bolster the bench. And when you really look at Denver on paper right now, Jamal Murray, Christian Brown, Cameron Johnson, who basically you trade away Michael Porter Jr. and get Cameron Johnson. Cameron Johnson coming off a career year. Maybe, I don't know which one of those guys is like the better rebounder. Maybe MPJ gets the slight edge there. He's also a better ISO scorer. But for what the Nuggets need to do,
They don't need an ISO score. They don't need an
ISO score. They need Cameron Johnson.
Jamal Murray's the only other one they need. They don't need a guy hogging the basketball. They need a guy who they can set up in the corner and just let it fly. Cam Johnson can provide that very easily.
And he can do that more too. That's not his whole game. He's not just a stand in the corner guy, but he sure can stand in the corner. But, he's a career 39% shooter. He's a really good defender. We saw the impact he made on the Suns when they had their finals run. And you can kind of see his absence after he left Phoenix too. He was one of those glue guys for that Suns team. But this is a guy who was firing up 7 threes a game and hitting them at a 39% clip last year for 19 points per game, which was a career high. And you have a very big, they still haven't listed at power forward. I think it's more likely he's going to be more of kind of a small forward, but between him and Aaron Gordon, you're talking about a lot of size in your forwards and two very good defenders, switchable defenders in Cameron Johnson and Aaron Gordon. And then you start, you got obviously Jokic, and then your bench, all of a sudden you got Valanciunas, you got Bruce Brown, who, similar to Cameron Johnson, great guy to stand and kind of catch and shoot threes, but it's not all he can do either. He kind of had a down year shooting last year, shot 33%, but overall, the impact, you can look at what he did when they were on that finals run and took home the championship. He shot 36% from three in 22-23, and he's kind of bounced around since then. He got paid with Indiana, then he winds up in Toronto. This guy's a role player, but on his career, like a 34% 3-point shooter. But where the Nuggets really struggled last year was depth in defense, and you can never have enough knockdown shooters around Nikola Jokic. And so, now I saw a great fake ad on Twitter, Brown and Brown Defense. Did you see that one?
Yeah, I saw that one. That was good.
It's amazing. But basically, that's your defense firm, Brown and Brown. You got Christian Brown, you got Bruce Brown, and they'll be locking down. So I mean, I kind of love it. Like this is a team that I felt like was kind of in that no man's land, like we talked about on the last podcast. You know, that you had the Thunder, you had the Rockets, and then like 3 through 11, dare I say, was kind of like waiting to see what happens. Well, the Nuggets are now, you could make a case, considering that they took OKC to 7 games, you could make a case for them to be the best team in the West now. I think that they, even though SGA won the MVP, I still think Jokic is the best player in the world. And now that they have everything shored up around him, I think this is actually on paper the best team that they've ever put around Nikola Jokic. And so I'm looking at the Nuggets now, and not only do I have them in the top 3, but they might be my top 1. Especially if you go out, you grab Chris Paul or Malcolm Brogdon.
You relax. Seriously, relax.
Tell me I'm wrong.
There's a team out there that just won the championship that won 68 games. Is probably going to win 65 next year if they're fully healthy.
And they got taken into real deep water by a Nuggets team that
in the playoffs, it's a different story. I'm talking about the regular.
It is a different story in the playoffs. Exactly my point.
Regular season, I don't think the Nuggets are going to be the 1 seed. I don't see that happening. I don't see that.
Cool. Bet.
I just don't see it. Do I think Jokic wins an MVP next year? Probably, because I think they'll be the 2 seed next year. But we'll see. If they can get a point guard, then they're probably the 2 seed, and Rockets, or you're fighting it out with Houston for that 2 seed at that point. So I mean, we're going to see what's going to happen. It's going to be a very, very, very interesting, next season, and. I really think the Nuggets proved that they have what it takes to win a championship if they're fully healthy. Aaron Gordon was hurt, so you really never got the full, experience of what they could have done.
Right.
Well, you never really got it. And
I think another guy I forgot to mention, Tim Hardaway Jr., they picked up as well. Like they might have the best bench. Like their bench might be just as good as OKC's or just as good as Indiana's.
They're going to need a point guard to fill things out. But I agree. It's once they get Malcolm Brogdon or someone like that, then I think that they're fully complete as a team. And I'd be nervous if I was OKC, even if you have that experience. They took you to 7 last year.
Exactly. So, I mean, you look at that bench and it's just crazy. Like you're kind of waiting to see what they do at that point guard spot. I think if I'm Chris Paul and I'm looking at this situation, I know that there's interest in the Suns or the Clippers, but I think legitimately the Nuggets give you a best chance to finally get that championship. So I know Brogdon is probably the guy I think could be a great solution, but I'm curious. I'm going to check right now just how many games Chris Paul did play. And I'm going to pose this question to you once I get.
Know how many he played all 82 games.
He played all 82 games. Okay, so who would you rather have here in the Nuggets, Brogdon or CP3?
Well, CP3 already said that he's not going anywhere other than the Clippers or the Suns. So there's that. But
that's stupid of him, in my opinion, my humble opinion.
Dude, I'm not Chris Paul, so I can't tell you what.
Well, he should go chase a ring. What are you doing? He said he's addicted to playing in the finals. He's been to 1 finals. Come on, they were addicted.
C3.
Well, who do you think? So let's say, in Chris.
I mean, if I were him, I'd go to Denver on a vet. If I were him, I'd go to Denver on a vet minimum. Why not? I mean,
why not? Who do you think would be a better fit for Denver? Because, it seems like, dare I say, because Chris Paul he's had his injury.
Shooter Malcolm Brogdon is, I think. I think Malcolm Brogdon's a better shooter, but I think his best days are behind him, Malcolm Brogdon. I hope I'm wrong with that. But, I mean, let's see what Chris Paul did. I mean, Chris Paul wasn't, super amazing last year. I mean, to be fair, the guy's 40.
Yeah, but clockwork from 3 the last 3 seasons.
Okay, he was 38% from 3. Okay.
3 years in a row. Shooting within that 37% range.
I didn't realize he was at that level. Wow. So, I mean, okay, then, at that point, I really think, I mean, he would be a good glue guy and a good veteran to have in that locker room. to chase a ring. I think it would really help them if he went there, definitely. But at the same time, I think, they're very close to the tax, the first apron. And I think that's their concern. So the next guy they sign has to be a vet minimum. And I think CP3 is going to get a tax, mid-level exception, something like that, to be able to sign somewhere. And I don't think Denver can offer that. And I think Malcolm Brogdon is probably going to have to sign an approve-it deal. So,
Sure.
you could get like,
Brogdon feels like the more likely scenario, is what you're saying.
you have to go into the bin a little more. Is Tyus Jones still available, or did he sign?
Let's check the tracker here.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's another guy you might be able to pick up for a vet minimum because I don't think he's going to get much more than that.
He's agreed to a 1-year deal with Orlando.
Oh, poo. So, I think pretty much knocks you down to.
So it's like Westbrook, Chris Paul, or Brogdon are kind of your
Brogdon
best
makes
options right now.
Price-wise, Brogdon makes the most sense. I just don't see CP3, going to Denver. I just don't see it.
I know some Denver fans who absolutely hate CP3. So it's just for what it's worth. But I don't think that.
Guess what? Guess what? You can hate. I'm sure there were plenty of Bulls fans who hated Dennis Rodman when they traded for him.
Exactly. You get a ring and it heals a lot of old wounds. But just imagining like a Denver bench where you have Malcolm Brogdon, Tim Hardaway Jr., Bruce Brown, Peyton Watson, and Jonas Valanciunas.
That's enough. Josh, that's more than enough.
That bench beats like bad teams, but that bench is better than some starting lineups for, I don't know, the teams that aren't trying to compete right now. The bad teams.
I'm not going to go that far, but it definitely, it definitely is a really, really, really effective bench.
It's a bench of 5 guys who could start on half the teams in the league.
A number of teams. A lot of those guys could start on a number of teams. I don't know if Jonas is still a starter. Not sure. But it definitely would be. He
had his moments last year, especially after Sabonis. He was out with that injury for a while, and Valanciunas got a chance to play some bigger minutes with the Kings. He's not someone I would feel great about starting, but golly, I do think he's a big upgrade over DeAndre Jordan.
I mean, DeAndre Jordan was a corpse of what he was, so it's better than DeAndre Jordan's corpse at this point.
Well, that's my big winner right now.
You couldn't play him more than 5 minutes. So, I mean, anything it helps better than that.
Well, Gordon did have some games like where he played big minutes. Like but it was when Jokic was out and he would put up these big numbers. Like he could play 30 minutes if he had to, but no, he's just not who he used to be. But even like prime for prime, like Valanciunas, he's a better shooter. DeAndre Jordan.
How about this? I think DeAndre Jordan is done in the NBA.
Well, didn't he retire? Like literally?
I don't think he retired. I don't think so. Not that I know of.
I thought he literally retired.
No.
Okay, he's not retired. Maybe I just assumed.
I think he'll go overseas probably, and that'll be it. I mean,
because he had some sort of.
I mean, his best years are way behind him, like way, way, way behind him.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you bring him back to be like your third string center, but.
That's about all you can do. That point. I mean, I would bring him back just to be a third string center probably, but that's really all I do. I wouldn't do much else besides that.
Yeah. So Nuggets are my biggest winner in free agency. Josh, you brought up the Miles Turner situation. Let's talk about Milwaukee. Holy cow. Dame's gone.
I didn't even give my biggest winner in free agency.
Who's your winner?
The Atlanta Hawks.
Really?
I think they are the second best team in the East now, on paper.
Whoa. Okay, you have the floor.
If you're looking at this team now, I mean, they loaded up with what they have now. They have enough depth, I feel, around what they have. I mean, let's look at it from a realistic standpoint. Boston's not going to be in the mix next year. The Pacers are not going to be in the mix next year. The Bucks are not going to be in the mix next year. The Magic will be.
Boston's still going to be pretty good.
I think they'll win 45 games.
I think Jaylen Brown's going to score
You got to
like
start center. You can't
28 points a game.
listen. I don't care who you are. George Niang is not good enough to play center for the Boston Celtics. No, he's not. No, that's not that can't happen. So I'm looking at Atlanta. Atlanta could win 55 games next year with this roster they have. They are so loaded. It's ridiculous how much they loaded up because I think that they know. I think they know what's coming when they have to re-sign Trae Young, and they're just going all in for this year.
Well,
And I have
they,
a
they
lot of
obviously
respect.
made the Porzingis move, which is very
Yeah, they got
interesting.
Porzingis. I mean, they have Okongwu. They have Jalen Johnson. They
Mo
have
Gay too,
Dyson.
like he kind of didn't get a ton of minutes, but that dude can play. Mo Gay is a real good bench piece, versatile big.
They have Reza Shea. They have Nikhil Walker Alexander. They
Yeah,
have
Luke
Dyson.
Kennard.
Luke Kennard is an insane knockdown shooter. And then you've got the best assist man in the NBA besides, I would argue, Jokic and maybe Tyrese Halliburton. The three best are right there. So, I mean, Atlanta loaded up, I feel. And I think they're ready. I think they're going back to the Eastern Conference Finals. That's my one going to be my pick right now in the preseason to make the conference finals is Atlanta.
I mean, honestly, you're kind of selling me on it, and like I do kind of look at that team, and it just screams
But
Quinn
I will say this.
Snyder
It's on
overachiever.
paper. It's on paper. And they still got one huge weakness. Whoever is guarded by Trae Young is going to eat him alive on defense like a plated old country buffet. Just eat him alive. I mean,
People forget that Country Buffet does have that special where you can actually eat something that's still alive. It's Thursdays from 3 to 4, the cannibal hour. Yeah. But, it could be, but it's
no,
okay.
that was my pick was Atlanta. I thought that they loaded up in so many different ways. My second was Denver.
No, you actually make you made some really good points, man. And golly, you look at what Quinn Snyder did with the Utah Jazz and how much they were able to space the floor when he finally kind of got his guys around him. And they could replicate that offensively, and it could be extremely interesting.
They're going to be a nightmare defensively on the wings. Like, they're going to be a nightmare. When you got Dr. Daniels, Jalen Johnson, and Reza Shea, Nikhil Walker Alexander's a really good defender. They're going to be a problem. A big problem.
So you think it's like Cavs, Hawks right now?
I would probably say Cavs, Hawks. And then, I mean, who do you pick third? Orlando?
Well, I would personally put the Knicks ahead of.
I'll put the Knicks third.
I would put the Knicks second, but like the Hawks are deeper. That's fair.
I don't think the Knicks are quite. I mean, if I'm looking up the Knicks depth chart, Miles you've got a really solid bench now in New York.
It's at least okay.
But it's nothing special. Like, it's not. There's like Yabusele. I mean, I will say this: Yabusele had a really good year last year. He did.
Yeah, he did have some good moments for sure, and he was kind of like an afterthought just because he was buried over there with Utah
in 6 years, in 6 seasons, and comes back and drops 11-6 off the bench. That's impressive.
I'm sorry, who'd you say that about?
Yabusele. He came after he hadn't played in 6 years in the NBA and came back and dropped 11.5 off the bench.
It's some Disney movie stuff.
That's crazy.
Here's the move I love for New York. All right, Jordan Clarkson. Do you remember last year? Like, someone go listen to our like finals or Eastern Conference Finals talk and listen to. I think it was the first episode talking about the finals preview. And do you remember I ripped New York to shreds and I said that they were so unserious for trying to have such a horrible bench? And I remember, and I was saying, like, what are we doing with who's that random role player who I hadn't seen play basketball in like years? I think he used to be on the Clippers, and all of a sudden he's getting meaningful playoff minutes. Who is that guy? What's his name?
Landry Shamet.
Landry Shamet. See, I'm pretty good at remembering basketball players' names. Okay, if I can't remember your name, we got an issue. Maybe I'm the issue, but come on, Landry
Oh, you're
Shamet,
definitely the issue. You're definitely the issue.
2025. That's so unserious. Come on. What did I say? I said the Knicks need an instant offense guy a la, Jamal Crawford. What do? They grab Jordan Clarkson. This dude makes some impossible shots. He's very good at difficult threes. Shot 36% from the arc last year, career 34%. So not exactly a sniper, but all of a sudden you have a guy who's able to come off the bench, and he did 16 points a game last year. He only played in 37 games, but he started 9 games. This is a guy where you can play him with Brunson, but also your team doesn't go to hell when Brunson's on the bench. No offense, Miles McBride. I think he had his moments, but he's not Jordan Clarkson. I love them to get that instant offense scorer who's kind of approaching the later stages of his career. That does a lot for the Knicks.
He's only 30. I mean, he's 33, but he still dropped 16 a game last year. Shot, not the best shooting percentage, only 41%, but he shot 36% from 3. He'll get his opportunities with the Knicks. I don't think he's going to score 16 a game off the bench. I don't think so. I think he was playing in Utah where he was going to be used a lot more than, and so, we'll see.
What's interesting about Utah is I guess when I look at Utah and I try to evaluate their assets, it's very difficult for me because I can't, and I know we just talked about the numbers, right? But it's hard for me to trust.
Besides Walker Kessler and John Collins, what assets do they even have? They don't really have much on that team right now.
Well, it's just kind of weird because they were trying to tank. They got in trouble for tanking. They didn't want to be competitive. And I think 2 guys who were probably healthy enough to play more games than they did was Lauri Markkanen and Jordan Clarkson. And so I do wonder, how much does Clarkson's usage change when he's brought into a position that isn't just trying to be competitive, but New York is trying to win a championship, and Clarkson's going to be their best bench scorer.
Yeah, he's going to be their best bench scorer, and he'll take the load off of those guys having to produce so much, and I think that's going to be really helpful for them. Absolutely. So now, you're looking at it. I think right now the 3 best teams, I think you're right. There's going to be Cleveland, Atlanta, and the Knicks. I think those are the 3 best teams on paper right now in the Eastern Conference, and it's going to be a very interesting. We saw what happened last time the Knicks played the Hawks, and I'm waiting for Trae Young to go back to the Garden. I want to see that again. Boy, was that fun. That was a fun time.
Your opinion on the Mike Brown signing?
I think, we talked about this. It's kind of a lateral move. He's a defensive specialist, but I don't think he's going to overplay his guys like Tibbs does. He's not a one-trick pony. I think Mike Brown has enough experience with Steve Kerr to know not to be a one-trick pony, and I think he'll know what to do when the time is right. So I think, I think they could still make the conference finals again. Do I think they're going to make the NBA finals? I don't know, man. I'm not really sure, but they've got a chance again next year. They've got a chance.
I'm going to pull up, and for those of you who are watching the video version of this, we'll read it off, but you can take a look as well. I'm going to pull up Tom Thibodeau and Mike Brown. So the first one I'm pulling up is Mike Brown. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So people forget, and maybe they don't forget, but it's kind of crazy. Mike Brown was the coach of the year in 22-23. We were shocked. When at least I was shocked when he got fired, because I just didn't understand that for Sacramento last year.
I understand it. It's called the incompetency of the Sacramento Kings.
I get that they were 13-18 at the time they let him go, but come on, what are you doing? I think he'd proven himself, and sometimes slow starts happen. Are they ideal? No, but I thought it was a reactionary and foolish move. All right, go ahead and share my screen here. So here's what we're looking at. Mike Brown, his career coaching record, 454 in 304. Now let's take a look at Tibbs. 578 and 420. So a 58% win percentage for Tibbs and a 60% win percentage for Brown. Like you said, Josh, both these guys are, they're, did that share for you? Were you able to see that?
I'm looking. I have Mike Brown's stats.
You did see that? Okay, very good.
I have Mike Brown's stats pulled up.
Okay, but you could see that on the computer?
No. Now I can.
Okay. Let me do that one more time for you guys, folks. So little user error, my friends. But yeah, looking at Mike Brown, he's been coaching for a long time, going back to the LeBron James days, but and a key assistant for the Warriors. But yeah, 60% win percentage now. Looking at it over at Tibbs, and you're getting the
dang. That's a bad playoff record. Yikes.
For Thibodeau,
48 and 55 is nothing to brag about.
48 and 55
in his playoff record.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
Not good. That's not
now,
good.
What's Mike Brown's?
50 and 40.
Okay. All right, that's enough screen sharing,
remember,
folks.
He went to an NBA Finals with LeBron James, and he had a couple good years there with LeBron. So there is that, but still, that doesn't help Tibbs. It does not.
Yeah, it does seem like a lateral move. Like you said, maybe he just kind of gets off the bench. But I feel like both these guys they both have a coach of the year under their belt at different times, and they've both helped to kind of bridge teams, but they've never been the guy to get it done as far as helping a team actually win a championship. But we'll see. I think that I think the Knicks, they thought they were going to go get Billy Donovan, or they thought they were going to go get a more proven coach. And say what you want about Billy Donovan.
You can think a lot of things in this world. I could think of Stillian Million's my girlfriend, but that's not going to happen, is it?
Chilian Million? Who?
You know who Christina Milian is? Come on, dude.
No. Who is she?
She's a supermodel. An old school supermodel from the early 2000s.
Okay, I don't know who that is, but I'll take your word for it. I only have eyes for one woman, so it doesn't apply to me.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Good.
Yeah. Hopefully she's listening. Hopefully my special lady friend's listening. Anyway, let's talk a little Bucks because we got to get that in, and then let's wrap it up with some Bulls. Dame, bye. I couldn't believe it. Miles Turner, I guess. I don't know, man. I think
the exit of Giannis continues.
Dude, I think he's
if I'm him, I want out of here. What?
I'm so mad if I'm Giannis.
With Miles Turner, get out of here.
I saw ESPN. They had a big graphic, and it said, "Did the Bucks do enough to keep Giannis, brother?"
No.
Your starting point guard is Kevin Porter Jr., who just got exiled to a different country to play basketball because he is a jerk. And he was
That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah. He was in. There's some bad.
He never should have been allowed back. He never
was it domestic abuse?
Yeah, I think so. Domestic violence. Yes.
Yeah. So we're talking, and he's a good player, but he's not a great shooter. I feel like he's a good point guard off the bench and can do some things for you.
Yeah, just long story short, you just replaced one of the best long distance shooters in the history of the league, a future Hall of Famer, for a guy who
can't shoot
and can't rebound.
I mean, I think he's a solid rebounder. I think he's a good overall player.
He's not a good rebounder. He's a solid player, but he's not a good rebounder.
But yeah, he shouldn't be. He's not the starting point guard on a serious team. And then Gary Trent Jr., love him. Nothing but good things to say. Probably not an all-star, but absolutely love him. And he was keeping that Bucks team alive. I know he had a bad sequence there at the end against the Pacers, but I love Gary Trent Jr. But then you got Kyle Kuzma, who's another guy who's not a super consistent shooter. And then you have Miles Turner, who's like a pretty good shooter, but like a limited rebounder. And so I look at and then Brooke Lopez left. Like, I don't, and you got Bobby Portis. You got Gary Harris. Like, I don't think they're going to be abysmal.
Long story short, I don't know where they're going.
This is not a good shooting team, and you need all shooters around Giannis. It is a clunky mess team.
If I'm Giannis, I want out. I don't know why you're staying. I don't know what you're. There is no hope. You don't have any first round picks. You have no assets. This is not a team that I would want to stay on. That's just me.
Time to move on. Time to get going. That's what Tom Petty said. Take it. Listen to some Tom Petty. Go chill by Lake Michigan, Giannis. We're here for you. Give us a call. We should think we could, well, let's see in Chicago. It'll be great. We got about 3 minutes to talk some Bulls. Still no deal with Giddey. Josh, what's your read on it?
I'm glad there's no deal. You know why? You can pay him less. And I actually think for once you did the right thing. There you go. Arturas doing the right thing. I'm applauding you. There you go. You should be happy I'm applauding you. And the reason why I'm applauding them is they got Trey Jones on a lesser deal than Lonzo. That was a good deal. I think Trey Jones is better than Lonzo at this point. And then you have Josh Giddey. You can maybe, if you're smart about this, you can get him for under $25 million at this point because nobody's got the money to sign him. Nobody.
Yeah. So you think the Bulls are basically waiting for him to see that there's not another team out there that's going to make a more competitive offer?
The Bulls, look, I don't think it's good business for the Bulls to say, basically, we can lowball you and you have to accept it. I don't think that that's good business, but that's kind of what they're doing. But they're playing hardball, and it's okay that they're playing hardball. I'm not mad at it.
Well, I think here's the conversation being had. Josh Giddey's agent is probably saying, look at the numbers Giddey did down the stretch. And then the Bulls are like, look at the season averages.
He averaged 21, 10, and 9 down the stretch. I think you
But
want
his season average, though, is like 14 points a game.
I think you can warrant him getting at least 24 million. I think 24 to 25 is reasonable. I don't think I want to pay Josh Giddey $30 million a year or more than that. I want to.
He would do 30 at most, and I'd feel about it. But in a perfect world,
they negotiated. They were negotiating against themselves for Patrick Williams, and that was a great decision. That was one of the best decisions I've ever seen. It was so good. You can't even hear the sarcasm in my voice. How amazing that deal was.
It's an amazing sign. Not a bust at all. Josh Giddey, man, I feel like I would love to see him. Give him 25. Give him, man, 25.
He doesn't need 30. Give him 25 and just call it. Give him
4 years, $25 million a year.
4 years, $100 million, and you're fine. That's fine.
Yeah, I'd be all over it. But I feel like any other Bulls signings are starting to feel like will happen after that big one goes down.
I don't know if they're going to do it. What are you going to do after this, really? Your roster's kind of complete at this point in terms of like your center depth, your forward depth, your small forward depth. You'll make a trade maybe for Io or something, but we'll see.
To be honest, we'll see. We'll see what happens, folks. Still a lot of rumors buzzing. We'll keep an eye on the Bulls. We'll keep an ear on the Bulls, and we will see you next time. Patrick Ecstatic on the Jams. Thank you for listening. Give us a friendly rating. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Go Bulls!
Go Bulls!
Keep the dream alive. Only the Bulls. Only the Bulls. Only the one and only Chicago Bulls. Who can fly through the air? Who can get them off their feet? Who can always snatch a victory from the jaws of defeat? Who can play the toughest defense, shattering the score, get Chicago up and rocking, crying out for more? Only the Bulls, only the Bulls, Chicago Bulls, only the one and only Chicago Bulls. Chicago Bulls, yeah. Chicago Bulls, Chicago Bulls, Chicago Bulls.